Penny Sullivan Nunez. Teachers, what is the cutest thing that your students have ever done? See this picture? This is a picture of me, the one who was not dressed up, with the majority of my elective psychology class I taught a few years back. Don't let them fool you. These kids were pains. They loved psychology. They loved it so much that they yelled and fought with each other in class over every debatable issue we discussed. They were fun to teach because they were enthusiastic, but they were tough to teach because they were largely uninhibited. As luck would have it, I ended up having a formal observation in that class. Since I knew it was coming, the day before the observation I told them that the assistant principal would be observing them the next day. As soon as I told them that, the class stood up and applauded. I quieted them down and asked them to be themselves for my observation, but to tone it down a bit. They said they would. The next day, the day of my observation, was strange. None of these students showed up in my room all day. They usually showed up many times to say hello or to have me settle an argument for them over some psychological concept. They even stayed out of my room during their 6th period lunch. At the end of 6th period, the assistant principal showed up and took a seat in the back of the room. No students were there. The bell rang for students to leave 6th period and go to 7th period, the period I was to be observed, but no students showed up. The bell rang to start 7th period, and there weren't any students in my room. Suddenly, after the bell rang, the door opened and my students walked into the room in a single file line wearing suits and dresses. 2 of the students were in 3-piece suits. One student was carrying a briefcase, another student had a pocket watch, and one student even had a professional nameplate for his desk. After entering the room, they walked to their assigned seats. I didn't even know they knew where those were. After everyone took out pencils and paper, the student announced, "We are ready to begin learning." Just then, the door opened, and the principal of the school poked his head in my room and said, "Why is everyone dressed up?" A student replied, "We care about learning here." Everyone laughed and the principal left the room. I opened my mouth to begin my lesson, but all I could do was laugh. Every time I tried to speak, I laughed and they laughed. The assistant principal couldn't see the smirks these kids were giving me from the back of the room. Finally, I said, "I am sorry, I can't do this. This isn't my class. I don't even know who these kids are." The students laughed. I laughed. Just as I began to speak, finally, one of the students raised his hand, another thing I didn't know they did. I called on him, and he pulled out a list of questions that the students made in preparation for this class, which I found out later was to make me look good. I did finally teach my planned lesson. I loved this class. I think they know that. 587.9K views. View 19,575 upvotes.